Thank you very much, councillors, members of senior staff, the clergy and the press. A very warm welcome to you for the first meeting of Temora Shire Council for 2013, our January meeting, of course, and I declare it open, and thank you so much for being with us. In declaring the meeting open, I advise Council that this meeting is being recorded and will be placed on Temora Shire Council's webpage for public information. All present today are reminded that whilst we're speaking, that we're agreeing that our views and our comments are being recorded and published. And we're also reminded that if or when that we're speaking, that we're, of course, to be respectful to others and using the appropriate language. Temora Shire Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures during this council meeting. Now, councillors, I proceed to our acknowledgement of country. As we begin our meeting today, Temora Shire councillors, our senior staff and I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of Temora Shire's land and waters, the Wiradjuri people. We pay our respect to their elders, both past and present, acknowledging the role that they have and will continue to play as members of our Temora Shire community, a special place we all proudly call home. Thank you, councillors. We now proceed to our opening prayer, and I'd invite Mrs. Joy Cornford, who is representing the Temora Christian Leaders Group, to lead us in our opening prayer. And I think there's a microphone there. Councillor McLaren will loan you hers. It's being recorded, Mrs. Cornford, so I'd ask you to please come to the microphone. Thank you very much.
Our Heavenly Father, it's a privilege on behalf of all residents within the Shire to come into your presence and to pray for each person in attendance at today's council meeting. We ask for wisdom and discernment as they work through the agenda before them, so that they will be better able to serve the Temora Shire with the decisions that will be accomplished and implemented in future days. Thank you too, Father, for their willingness to serve in this way as councillors and staff, and for the time that they devote in reading through and understanding the contents of what needs to be discussed today. Thank you, Lord, that when people come to you asking for guidance and direction, that you do help them in everything that needs to be said and done. And so we commit this meeting to you and pray these things through Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mrs. Corn, for the beautiful, beautiful prayer. Thank you. Now, councillors, we have apologies from Councillor Bushell, has tendered her apology today, as has the General Manager and as has the Engineering Assets Manager. So would someone care to move those apologies are approved, please? Councillor Good, Councillor Judd, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. So, councillors, just to note that there's some deck chair changes. You know, of course, the Administration and Finance Director, Mrs. Elizabeth Smith, is the Acting General Manager this week. We have of course, the Works Engineering Manager, Mr. Dallenberg, and the Town Planner, Mrs. Galder, as well, and of course, Miss Burnett down yonder, filling in for Mrs. Rands, who's on, it's her birthday today. So many happy returns to Mrs. Rands. That's right. She really needs to get a life. No, it's special to celebrate a birthday. Let's go, councillors. Declaration of any interest, please, at this time. I go to Councillor McLaren.
A non-pecuniary interest in item 20.6 in confidential and item 20.5 in confidential.
Thank you. Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, pecuniary interest in an item in confidential, and just in relation to the confirmation of the minutes, there's a couple of items that are missing out of the minutes from both the November and December meeting.
We'll come to that
in the confidential.
We'll come to that. Thank you. Any other declarations at this time? Councillor Judd.
Non-pecuniary interest in 12.4 in the Open Council Area Park Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Judd. I have an interest to declare on 13.2 in the Engineering Services Department, Crowley Street footpath matter. There's no further declaration at this time, and you can think of them later at the time. So thank you very, very much. Councillors, now we proceed to the minutes of our, well actually we have two lots of minutes to consider, pardon me, one for our council meeting held on the 24th of November of 2022, and then a separate consideration for the minutes of our very last meeting, the 15th of December 2022. So the first meeting minutes to consider is the 24th of November. Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, I forwarded some correspondence to the General Manager regarding an omission in the confidential section of that meeting, so I don't know whether you want to put that aside until confidential in this meeting to be considered then.
So thank you, Councillor Irvine. Well, I think that that would need to be considered in closed. It certainly wasn't a motion, but it was in matters arise or business without notice. So therefore, if that is the will of council to have that considered, then I'm happy to receive a motion that we proceed into closed committee to consider the confidential minutes of the November meeting in relation to Madam Acting General Manager, in relation to
the November confidential minutes in relation to the business without notice.
Yeah, thank you. So someone prepared to move? Councillor Irvine, you're moving that way. Second, Councillor Good, that we proceed into closed session to consider those confidential minutes from the 24th of November 2022. Discussion?
We need the press to leave.
Yes. Is there discussion on the motion? So, councillors, can we have a motion, please, to adopt the 24th of November 2022 meeting? And again, council apologises for that omission. So if we can have a motion. Councillor Good, you're moving that it be accepted as a true and correct record. Councillor Oliver, you've seconded the motion. Thank you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare... sorry, Councillor Irvine.
Can I record a vote against that, please?
Yes, thank you. Councillor Irvine has recorded his vote against. I declare the motion carried. Thank you, councillors. Let's go to the council meeting for the 15th of December 2022. A motion to receive that it was true and correct record. The Deputy Mayor. Oh, sorry, you weren't there. Yeah. Councillor Good, thank you. Has moved that way. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Oliver, thank you. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Chair.
Councillor Irvine.
Will there be further discussion on that? I had raised that there was an omission from that meeting as well. From the minutes of the confidential section of that meeting.
I'm not aware of that, Councillor Irvine.
I raised that when we discussed both of these points for the confirmation of the minutes.
So which item, Councillor Irvine, is it in relation to, please?
It was in relation to a matter that I raised without notice at the December meeting.
In closed session?
Yes.
Right. Well, it would have been most helpful if we had have discussed that whilst we're in session. Councillor Judd? Oh, sorry. Sorry, Councillor Irvine, we're not sure of what you're talking about.
It's difficult to
Yes,
broach the subject in an open council meeting, considering that it was considered at. But to suffice to say that to bring a little bit closer detail to it, it was brought as the councillor sitting on the Risk Management Committee, and it was in relation to something at the airport.
Well, Ken, this is highly irregular, I have to say. So, in relation to this particular matter, I'm going to ask if council wish to proceed back into closed session. I think Councillor Irvine, you perhaps could have mentioned, I don't recall you mentioning it, but you may have, that there were two items.
Fortunately, the open meeting's recorded, so there will be a record of that.
Right, thank you. So therefore, councillors, if you would like to proceed back into closed session to discuss these matters, happy to do so. Is that
I'll move
Councillor
the motion
Irvine?
to that effect.
Thank you. Seconder? Seconder, please. Third and last time, is there a seconder for the motion? If not, it lapses. Thank you. So, councillors, the 15th of December 2022, is there a motion please to receive the minutes as a true and correct record?
You've already got a mover and seconder.
Who is it?
Oliver.
Thank you. Councillor Good, Councillor Oliver, thank you. Moved and seconded. No further discussion. If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Councillor Irvine, you're requesting your
Yes.
vote. Thank you. Thank you very much, councillors. Let's proceed to our business paper. Page 6, we have the Mayor's report for the month of December, and there's a recommendation on the bottom of page 9 that the Mayor's report be noted. Thank you, Councillor Reinhold has moved. Second, Councillor Good. Thank you very much. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much, councillors. Let's go, of course, for those listening, that we don't have committees in January, so therefore there's no committee reports. There's just general reports for council to consider later in the meeting. So let's go to page 10, staff reports. A motion, please, to receive staff reports. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Judd, moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's go to page 11. General Manager's report, the 12.1, calendar of events. The Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The calendar of events is noted for council with one further item to include, which is the tour of inspection that's been scheduled for the 30th of March.
Thank you very much. Councillors, is someone prepared to move the recommendation the calendar events be noted with that addition, or is there an alternate? Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Oliver, moving a recommendation with that addition. Thank you. Moved, seconded. Further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Over to page 12, 12.2, policy reviews. The Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So two policies have been up on public display for 28 days. They were the Councillor and Staff Interaction Policy and the Social Media Policy. No submissions were received, so we're looking to adopt those policies today.
Thank you very much. Councillors, you have a recommendation there for you to consider. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move that we adopt those policies, please.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver is moving that Council adopt the Model Council and Staff Interaction Policy and Council Social Media Policy. Is there a second? Thank you, Councillor Good. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If there's no further discussion, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very, very much. Councillors, let's go over to page 46, 12.3, the Federal Assistance Grants, and that is in the hands of the Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the General Manager's provided a report on the FAGS grant, and the report is for noting. That was actually held over from the December meeting.
Yes, thank you. Councillors, you have the report there. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question. There was a resolution passed in November that we write to the Federal Minister. Has that letter been sent?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor McLaren. We'll go to the Acting General Manager.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, it was sent. 12th of January 23, we wrote to Mr McCormack.
Thank you. Could you send a copy of that around for councillors' information, please? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. The Acting General Manager will send a copy to councillors. Councillors, there's a recommendation there for council to consider on page 50 that council note the report, or is there an alternate? Councillor McLaren.
Just a discussion on this. When the Grants Commission were here, they did express frustration at not having any discretion to allocate grant funds within a range that reflected more equity, given the per capita allocation amount. And with the increasing population in the metropolitan areas, the funds go to where the people are, and the growing inequity between the rural councils and the metropolitan areas based on this per capita minimum amount is really seeing FAGS grants skewed towards the city, where they have abundant revenue raising capacity, and the regions don't have that revenue raising capacity. So I really got the sense from those commissioners that they really wanted that discretion to have the 10 to 30% range with which to allocate their FAGS grants to, and not the strict 30%. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Yeah, I think that may have been said, though, in closed session. So I'd ask our dear friend, Mr Cunningham, if he'd please use discretion in relation to the quotations of commissioners, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you, Councillor McLaren. Councillors, there's a recommendation there for you to consider that we note the report, or is there an alternate? Councillor McLaren, you happy to note the report? Thank you. Second, Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Moved and seconded. All that discussion. Just noting, just thank the General Manager, because that was a heck of a lot of work, but I think it was very informative for Council. So we do thank the General Manager for that. Which is the General Manager on channel? Mm-hmm. Right. So the General Manager is actually zooming in to, so he's with us, sort of. And so thank you, Mr. General Manager, for zooming in on your annual leave. I'll put the motion. All those without opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, let's go over to page 57, 12.4, Area Park Advisory Committee Landfill Fund. Councillor Judd is declaring an interest in vacating the chamber as a member of that committee, and I defer to the Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So a number of items requested through the Area Park Advisory Committee. Just a note in relation to the item there from the Area Park Cafe, the applicant was actually the Area Park Community Cafe Committee, which is in fact a not-for-profit community organisation. It wasn't the lessee of the cafe, just to clarify there. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Go to Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Good. With that clarification from the Acting General Manager, Councillor Good is moving the recommendation, that is that the funds recommended by the Area Park Advisory Committee totalling $6,020 be approved. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor McLaren. Thank you. Moved, seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Welcome back, Councillor Judd. During your temporary absence, councillors considered matter 12.4, Area Park Advisory Committee Landfill Fund, and on the motion of Councillor Good and Councillor McLaren, the recommendation was approved unanimously by Council. Thank you. Councillors, let's go over to page 59, 12.5, Media Officer, the Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As council's aware, the media officer resigned, and just looking for guidance from council as to whether you wish to re-advertise that position.
Thank you, Madam Acting General Manager. Just for councillors' information, the cost was around that $5,500. The Acting General Manager advises for around 9 hours a month, and I think that certainly Pastor Morris pumped out a lot of articles, and it was Temora Shire's loss that she's and Mr Morris have moved to Wagga Wagga. However, she did ask me to pass on the council's sincere thanks for appointing her and allowing her the privilege of reporting on council and also other items of interest, retired councillors and so on. So, councillors, for those that may not know, the reason that council have had a council meeting reporter on our payroll is because the editor of the Temora Independent indicated that that their team weren't able to pump out the stories that we've been used to. Because I certainly know I've been concerned that we hadn't had enough stories being pumped out from here, which captures certainly debates from council and so on. And I think that's, in my view, so very, very important. However, I understand there is an argument that why should council have to do so, but it's certainly something that we've done in recent years. But it's a matter for council. I'll go now to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yes, Mayor. It's something I think that perhaps council look into is finding the right person's a big issue, but maybe it's worthwhile advertising the position to see whether there's any interest at all and see what response we get.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Any other comments? If not, as the Deputy Mayor, would you wish to move that direction or?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'll move that council advertise a position for a media officer.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Moved and seconded. Is there discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. And of course, it's certainly no offence to our dear friends at the Temora Independent. However, there's just so many exciting things that are happening, and we just need to get as much out as we can. So really, we see it as partnering with the paper effectively. So thanks very much, councillors. Nothing of an urgent late nature from the Acting General Manager?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, let's go to page 60, the Engineering Services Report, 13.1, Malley Street, the Engineering Works Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. In regards to Malley Street, this is just presenting correspondence back after letters were issued based on the previous report that went to council. So the report's as presented, but if you've got any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr Manager. Just to remind council and listeners of the resolution that was adopted at last month's council meeting, and that was that council correspondence be sent from council to the two property owners that a no parking zone would impact on the eastern side of Malley Street, and further that if there is no objection received, that council will install no parking signage at the location. So of course there has been an objection, so that's why we're here, of course, considering this matter again. So thank you, Mr Manager. Councillors, the report is there for you to consider. I go to Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Reading through this report, I see that one of the options that one of the objectors had was to enter from Malley Street and exit at Melaleuca Street. It probably makes a lot of sense because the incline that's coming out of Moses and Son is quite steep. It would put extra strain on the vehicle being fully loaded. It makes more sense to come in that way, load up and then go out on a much flatter surface on probably a much quieter street. Truck and tractor are off Melaleuca Street, and they provide undercover parking for their workers, so there's very rarely a car parked along there or any other vehicle for that matter. And I think, yeah, well, that's all I have to say at this point in time. I think, yeah, that'll do. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Oliver. I go now to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Oliver that there are other options, and yeah, it makes sense, I think, to come in from the opposite way to what they have been doing. Melaleuca Street, occasionally there are trucks who do park outside in front of Temora Truck and Tractor, but you know, anyone coming out of Moses have the option of turning right and going up and doing a loop and coming back out again. That's not a very not far anyway. So I think with this case, I don't know whether it's worth some council officers or the engineer talking to Moses about this and just going through a few options and just trying to work something out. I don't see how it should be too hard to come up with a something
suitable
that
option
works. Yeah.
For all parties.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillors, you have a report there for you to consider. Is there I'll go to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Could I move that council office meets with the management of Moses and Son and to talk about perhaps the different options that have been raised with council?
So you don't want to include the other business involved in discussions?
Oh, well, yes, one hurt, yes.
So that's Schultz Automotive.
Yes.
So you're happy to move that way?
Yes, and perhaps if they change the direction, maybe it's worth talking to Temora Truck and Tractor too, just to make sure they're on side too. So
maybe if you just include the three
businesses there.
So you're happy to do that?
Yes.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Oliver. Thank you very much. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Go to Councillor Irvine.
This issue isn't going to be the last time this occurs up in the industrial area just due to the narrowness of the streets. One of the suggestions put forward was to turn left and go up the hill. However, there's been a new shed developed further up the hill, and that could in turn, in time be a future choke point. So the option to enter and exit in the opposite direction does provide opportunities for this particular situation, but I just know with the new development from Delta Ag, a lot of the vehicles exiting Delta Ag are actually, their front steer tyres are actually going on my driveway, and I'm on the opposite side of the road, and that's just due to semis and angles and narrow streets. So as soon as you get one car parked in the street, it is a bit of a problem, and they're just, well, for future reference, if we do another industrial subdivision, we need to double the width of the streets.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. I don't think you'd get any arguments in the chamber on that issue. Thank you very much. Councillors, you have a motion from the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Oliver that council officers meet with Moses and Son, Schultz Automotive and Temora Truck and Tractor to discuss options and report back to council, I'd assume, Mr Deputy Mayor, Councillor Oliver, in due course. Yeah. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried, and I thank you very, very much. Go over to page 73, Councillors 13.2. I'll declare an interest and vacate the chamber and the chair, and I defer to the Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, through you, Deputy Mayor. In regards to this report, I just want to note in terms of the correspondence where it talks about wasn't asked and informed. So in general, future planning for footpaths is within the delivery plan for what's proposed to be delivered by council along with the PAMPS plan. I know in general the public may not be looking at those documents, but we don't send letters out in relation to footpath constructions until funding for the council portion is confirmed. So that's the point at which they're engaged that it's proposed to have a footpath there and constructed. So I just wanted to note that point in relation to the correspondence. In terms of the correspondence presented in relation to this footpath, happy to take any questions on the report.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I agree with the short notice that some residents may feel and the contribution they have to make can be quite burdensome. Is there a possibility that residents can be required to contribute in the following financial year once we've confirmed that we're doing the work, and give them that time to, if they're having financial difficulty, to budget for that allocation?
Thank you, Mr Chair. So in accordance with our policy, an invoice, we advise the property owners that we're going to do the work and we provide an estimate of the cost. And then once the works are completed, we send an invoice for their share of the cost. And then in accordance with our debt recovery policy, that constitutes a charge against the land. So we send an invoice and then statements only twice per year. If the person is having difficulty paying the amount outstanding, they can contact council and we can enter into an arrangement. Ultimately, it is a charge against the land. So if they refuse to pay it or are unable to pay it, it will sit there as a charge against the land until either they pass away or the property is transferred.
A supplementary question. Given the interest rate implication, if they are late on their payment, when does that kick in?
Through you, Mr Chair, we don't charge interest on outstanding curb and gutter contributions.
This is a question for Mr Dallenberg. So just to get clarification from this report, because there's a number of different emails and such, and a proposed and a counter proposed, what option makes the most sense from your perspective, given our current network?
Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, in response to Councillor Irvine's question, the proposal of the western side makes most sense for the current layout of the existing network. There was concern over residents of Mother Shipton Villas, but there was a new footpath that was put in down Grey Street that services that property. So as an extension for the footpath already in Crowley Street, the western side makes more sense than the eastern side.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. The proposal put by council, I think, is a very considered proposal based on the best option for the community. There was comment about Mother Shipton Villa that there are issues there, but there's no complaint raised by a member of Mother Shipton. So I would move the recommendation, but add an addition to there that and further that the footpath be installed in accordance with the original proposal, which is the western side.
Okay. So, do we need to have that in evidence that that's already there, already
Do we need to confirm that? Confirm.
A further question to Mr Dallenberg, please.
Yeah, Councillor Irvine moved the motion then, so we do need a seconder. Did you get that extra?
Yeah, if I may.
Councillor,
And further, and council confirm footpath be installed in accordance with the original proposal on the western side.
okay. So do I have a seconder for that? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Judd, you're moving it? Yeah, okay. So we'll have discussion. Now, Councillor Irvine?
Yeah, question to Mr Dallenberg, please. There's, on the original western side proposal, there's a small indication at the Shipton Villas property. Is there a proposal there to put a pram ramp so that residents of Shipton Villas can cross the street and connect with the proposed new footpath?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, in response to Councillor Irvine, that little mark that's on the Mother Shipton side is just to connect the network. So there's a curb ramp that goes between the existing Bob Aldridge building and where the new one's being built for disability access, and disabled parking marked on the street there. So there'll be a corresponding curb ramp on the other side of the street and a small piece of path to link it to the existing network.
Councillor Oliver?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I don't support the western side. I understand what we're trying to achieve, trying to link up the Federal Park and the tennis courts and the sporting facility of Bob Aldridge Park. I understand that. But I'm thinking of the residents further down, that if we're going to send them down Grey Street, we're going to send them past a very busy business into sales. They've got to come past McDonald's, there's traffic in and out all the time. It's going to be quite dangerous for them. And also that you've got McWorks as well. There's quite a busy part of the town there at the moment, and it was stated in one of the submissions or whatever it was, it might have been safer for them to at least go down Crowley Street to Polera Street and then make their way down to the street. So I don't really fully support the western side. I understand what they're trying to achieve, but the eastern side is the one I would prefer. So thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Oliver. Councillor Irvine?
Yeah, I differ in my view than Councillor Oliver. I see very high levels of traffic on that western side with the use of Bob Aldridge, particularly in the wetter months, with the junior rugby league, both for training and play match days. That area is subject to very high wear and tear, and I think with the new building works going on at Bob Aldridge, it's probably going to lead to increased usage. And I'm satisfied that the residents of Shipton Villas and any other residents in that area have got a good, safe access to cross and connect with the new footpath and use the Crowley Street footpath, but just on the other side of the road. I'm quite satisfied that their crossing there is safe, and therefore then they can just connect on with the original network and avoid all of the hazards that Councillor Oliver has rightly identified.
Okay, Councillor, no further comments or discussion? We do have a motion in front of us. If no further conversation, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Motion carried. Thank you. Call in the Mayor. Mr Mayor, yeah, the motion that was presented to, or the recommendation that was presented to us was put forward with the addition that we confirm the western side of the Crowley Street where the footpath is put, and that was carried.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Council. And just on that, Councillor, with the engineer has spoken about it's very warm in here. Yeah. Mr Works engineer, in relation to the grant, did you share that with
No, I didn't.
Council? Pardon?
I didn't allude on that because I went to the last council meeting.
Yeah. Anyway, there was an announcement yesterday for some extra funds for that, but I advised the member for Cootamundra that council were to determine which side, the western side or eastern. So there's some money there to assist us in that space. So thank you very much. Let's go over to page 80. Thank you. 13.3, footpath, curb and gutter contributions policy, and that is in the hands of the engineering works manager.
Thanks, through you, Mr Mayor. In regards to this policy review, there's some changes in red, but since this report was published, the recommendation, which is on your screens, has been amended because point 3 under legal framework wasn't entirely correct in saying that the determination is liable to pay the amount on receiving notice, because the initial notice that is sent to residents is just a notification of the amount and plan to construct. It's actually only determined payable once an invoice is raised. So there's an amendment which is in that recommendation on the screen to address that point, and a further point to add that sort of refers to the F2 debt recovery policy of council in terms of payments.
Thank you, Mr Manager. Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Good has moved the recommendation as it appears on your screen, and with those two amendments as articulated by the engineer. And the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, has seconded the motion. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. I declare that motion carried, and thank you very, very much. Let's go over to page 86, 13.4, tree removal request, the engineering works manager.
Yep, through you, Mr Mayor. In regards to this report for requested tree removals, it does mention in the report about possibility for root ripping or root barrier on the nature strip. So I might just touch on that note. That is a feasible option in terms of similar treatments around Temora for some other trees. For the variety of tree, being an ash tree, it does come with future risks that it's not going to be effective and that we may pay twice in terms of doing that now and then removing later. So just to take that in consideration with the report, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr Manager. So effectively that you're saying that the root barrier can be done, however, it comes at a great risk with that species of tree. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Councillors, I go now to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I hate these things coming up at council, pulling trees out. We've been there for 10 years or 20 years, whatever they have. But yeah, it's been said they're going to keep giving trouble, and whatever they're pruned all the time because of the power lines, and they will have to be there. Still relatively young trees, so they're going to keep growing. So they only have to be kept pruning, and yeah, unfortunately, I think council's best option here is to remove the trees and replace them with something that's more appropriate. I think, as much as I hate saying that, but I think it's the best option.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. We go to Councillor Irvine.
At this stage, it appears the owner's only issue is a couple of roots in the lawn. The trees appear healthy and at no risk, and the review of the street tree policy is imminent. So my recommendation is that council delay any decision on these trees until the review of the street tree policy has been completed.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Go now to Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move a motion along those lines that we refer it to the street tree review and make a decision then.
Thanks, Councillor Good has moved that way. Seconded, Councillor Reinhold. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? You happy, Mr Deputy Mayor? Thank you. Moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very, very much. Nothing of an urgent, late nature from Engineering Services Department, Mr Manager?
Through you, Mr Mayor, nothing further.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Councillors, let's now go to page 92, the Environmental Services Department report. Our 14.1 development application, and that's in the hands of the Director of Environmental Services. Thank you, Mr Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Got a planning report prepared by the Town Planner regarding this multi-unit development of 38 Pitt Street. It's a little bit unusual for Area Park, and it has raised some concerns with the neighbours, and I guess that comes with something different. It's good to see Area Park with some growing pains, I guess. So it's apparently accommodation is in short supply, and this may go some way towards relieving that issue. The main issues the Town Planner addressed came down to effluent, open space car parking and finish quality. I think the effluent issue has been dealt with by the geotech report. The open space and car parking is adequate, that it meets our DCP. The finish quality can be looked after by two $10,000 bonds that will be applicable. I draw your attention to a loose sheet that was received on the 12th of January. The neighbour on the western side has proposed that an internal path be provided. We probably feel that this is a worthwhile condition. House C will have to have a garbage service and a mailbox that addresses the Pitt Street, so it's best that that be entered, access via the property rather than dragging bins down a public lane and the conflict that can occur. So I would encourage, some kind of path to be installed, and that be a condition added to the proposed conditions of consent, which are outlined in the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr Director, and commend you and the Town Planner on the detailed assessment. Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, a question to the Director of Environmental Services. The fact that these are a movable dwelling means that they are not required to have a basics certificate. Is that the case?
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. The Director.
That is correct.
Thank you.
That is correct.
Councillor Irvine.
Secondary question. To qualify for that, they have to have a compliance plate stamped by an engineer on each particular dwelling to meet that requirement. Thank you. I'll defer to the Director.
That is a requirement on new transportables, but would be difficult to achieve in this case. The process, rather than a construction certificate, they do a Section 68 consent for a relocatable dwelling. Look, I don't think they could get a compliance certificate on a second-hand house.
Thank you, Mr Director. Other comments? I go now to Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to clarify, there's no subdivision within the block. It's all retaining one ownership of the whole lot, and it's going to have a common septic system that the owner, the ratepayer, will be responsible for maintaining.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. We'll go
That's
to the
right.
Director.
There's no neighbourhood or strata title associated with this application.
Thank you. The comments or questions? Councillor Judd, obviously this is in your patch. Have you got any reflections, or advice or thoughts you'd like to share with council, please?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I shared the Deputy Mayor's comments early in public forum about being a good thing for Ferry Park. We've been looking for development for some time, and it's just surprised me in recent 12 months at least that so much demand, and a lot of people are actually disappointed can't get something. The proponents already have 4 properties in Ferry Park they've done up, and 2 other houses they've relocated, and they've sort of done a good job with all those properties, and I'm confident they will look after these properties. And I think the conditions we've put on, raising the rear fence to a bigger height, total height, and the latest one about the new footpath entrance, I think that's will satisfy most of the concerns the neighbours have had, and I've got, and so I'm supporting the DA.
Thanks, Councillor Judd, and I also want to thank you, Councillor Judd, before I go to Councillor Oliver, for ringing me to compliment warmly our Director of Environmental Services and Town Planner for their efforts in relation to handling this issue. So thank you very much. It's always nice to receive calls from councillors praising our staff. It's really, really special. So thank you. Go to Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. This will do nothing but to improve the housing situation, not only in Area Park, but in the Shire as well. So I'll move that with the addition of the loose leaf condition here with the pathway, that we approve the development application for the multi-unit housing at 38 Pitt Street, Area Park. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Oliver. You'll move that way. Seconded, Councillor Judd. Moved, seconded, and obviously councillors that will need to declare and record each individual councillor's position in relation to this. Is there further discussion? Further discussion, Councillor Irvine.
This is just a comment broadly, and it's just to probably discuss the conflict between the building codes relative to the relocatable buildings as opposed to a stick-built on-site structure. So were a landowner to build on-site in situ using a local trade, they'd have to comply with higher levels of compliance and basics and those types of hurdles to development, as opposed this relocation of a relocatable dwelling voids those obligations. So there is some unevenness from a fairness perspective you might consider in the playing field. However, this is just, it's nothing obviously from Temora Shire Council's perspective or anything that can be addressed at this level. It is just something to note, but it also creates quite an opportunity to develop some very low cost housing at a time when housing is at a very in very high demand. So it will fill a niche, but I imagine some of the local builders would feel a little bit some form of unfair treatment when the compliance levels that they would have to comply to are much higher than what someone bringing a second-hand transportable in would have to comply to. That's the point I'd just like to raise in relation to that.
Yeah, no, thanks, Councillor Irvine. Well, councillors, if there's no further discussion, I'm going to put the motion, and of course being a planning decision, ask us to raise our hands when I put it to you. So all those of that opinion, please raise your hands. Declare the motion carried unanimously. So thank you very much, councillors. Councillors, we go over to page 137, 14.2, external grant funding policy, the Director of Environmental Services.
Report is as written, Mr Mayor. The policy's been on exhibition for 28 days and the final step is to adopt it.
Thanks very much, Mr Director. Go to Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move the recommendation.
Thank you, councillor Good. You're moving the recommendation. Is there a seconder? Please, the Deputy Mayor, councillor Sinclair. Thank you. Moved, seconded. Discussion. I go to councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just raise a concern about the short timeframe grant program wording on page 142, that it doesn't succinctly reflect the amendment that was moved at the November meeting. The Director and the Town Planner have the amendment, just to ensure that where it is a funding opportunity over 50,000, that councillors be consulted via mobile phone and email with the majority response required. If there is no response from council within 24 hours, it will be assumed that they acquiesce. That hasn't been accurately reflected in that paragraph, and the Director will amend that as such. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor McLaren. So I'd defer to the town planner. If you can just articulate that and make sure the mover and seconder are happy. It seems to make sense to me, but the town planner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So following discussions with councillor McLaren, there's just some additional wording required, indicating that with a majority response required. So making clear that the majority of councillors need to respond in favour before the General Manager will seek to proceed with the grant application.
I thought there was the comment one.
Request comment, but you have to actually get a majority.
Okay, so is the mover and seconder clear on that? Thank you. And the seconder is the Deputy Mayor. Is that correct? Or I thought we were talking to the General Manager will request, instead of comment, consent. I thought that was one of the. Sorry, councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just in the paragraph where it says everything's okay till you get down to the General Manager will request comment, that bit needs to be removed, and I've got a sentence that the Town Planner has. She might be able to read out.
Okay, so thank you. The town planner.
So the wording is, should this occur, the councillors will be contacted via mobile phone and email with majority response required. If there is no response from a councillor within 24 hours, it will be assumed that they agree.
Right. Is the mover and seconder happy with that? Okay, thank you very much. We got there. If there's no further discussion, it is an important policy. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. I declare that carried, and thank you, councillor McLaren. Let's go, nothing of an urgent, late nature, Mr Director?
No, there's not.
Thank you. Councillors, over to page 145, Administration Finance Department Report, 15.1, the Resilience Project, the Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The report's as written. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillors, you have the report there read. Obviously the most important thing is, in a way, is the fact that there's not a financial commitment expected from council. It just seems to me that there seems to be a lot of public schools asking for external funding more and more, when my observations that federal and state money is unprecedented in terms of the volume, the amount. However, there's an old saying, you can't get into trouble for asking. So, but anyway, at the end of the day, councillors, there's a report for you to consider, and I think the recommendation is that it be noted, or as an alternate. Councillor Good.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Good's moved the recommendation. That is that council note the report in relation to the Resilience Project. So thank you, Councillor Good. Seconder for the motion. Thank you, Councillor Judd. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, over to page 149, 15.2, Related Party Disclosures Policy, the Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The report's as written. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councillors, you see that report and that minor amendment, but an important one to include their engineering managers. They're not minor, of course, but you catch my drift. Councillor Good.
I'll move the recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Goods move the recommendation, that being Council adopt the related party disclosure policy. Is there a seconder? The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very, very much. Councillors, let's go over to page 166, 15.3, Railway Precinct Master Plan, the Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, the report's as written. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councillors, you see there, I suppose Councillor Oliver is the chairman of our Railway Precinct team. You have anything you wish to add?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, just that it's disappointing that the grant wasn't approved, but I'm sure there'll be other grants and be other applications, and we'll see how we go then. So, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. A good attitude to have, and hopefully, yes, there will be more funds available from federal or state, that's for sure. There is a report, councillors, and a recommendation for you to consider, and that is that council note the report, or is there an alternate view? The Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Councillor Sinclair, as the Deputy Mayor, has moved the recommendation that we note the report. Seconded, Councillor Good. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, well, in further discussion, of course, Council thanks those that put the effort in, and I'm assuming that's our grants officer for putting in the application. You've had a bit of a, and Mr Sinclair, our Economic Development Manager, so well done to those two. Lucky you've got a few brownie points on the board. But no, our sincere thanks to you both. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, I did forget, and it was my error, and I apologise sincerely, I did overlook the delegates' reports way back prior to staff reports. So we're now going to have delegates' reports now before we proceed to correspondence. So, do we have delegates' reports, please? The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, just to remind everyone that Australia Day is coming up next Thursday, the 26th anyway. As usual, there's celebrations in Temora at Gloucester Park, breakfast at 8:30, followed by the official part, the presentation of the Citizen of the Year and so forth. Airy Park's also having some celebrations out there, pretty much the same time, I think, a breakfast and so forth. And as same as last year, there's basically a pool party from, I think it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's free for anyone who wants to go along, so I think it's 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock and so forth. So, yeah, pack your togs. Should be a good day. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you to you and your team for putting in a great deal of work behind the scenes, and of course to Area Parks Coordinator, Mrs Sinclair. Thank you very much. Further delegates' reports, Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I attended the Springdale Progress Association meeting, or whatever they call themselves out there. Everything's going quite well. They've got 4 old-time dances planned for the upcoming year, so if anybody's interested, get your dancing shoes on and head on out. And they reported that the New Year's event went rather well too, and they're looking at looking for a new sponsor for the Peter Carlefeld Scholarship Award too. The previous one may not be available anymore. So everything's going pretty well out there. The Bundawarra Centre, I attended that meeting last Thursday night, I think it was, and they're all going pretty well for their 50th anniversary showcase presentation day, whatever. So all's going well out there. So, and plus they had that good news the other day too, with the $100,000 they got for. I forget what it was for now. So there's that bloody. Sorry, there was that many. I can't remember them all, but that's me anyway, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Oliver. Yes, you're right. You're right. It was very special to receive those funds, and I acknowledge on behalf of Council the member for Cootamundra, who yesterday announced $898,621 for our 6 projects that Council has workshopped. That was terrific, and of course, well done to those community groups in the golf club, and I thank the Deputy Mayor for hosting a function at the golf club for the announcement, and Councillor Judd, who also hosted one at Harper Park with the state member present. And also congratulations to Councillor Reinhold and the team at the Temora Community Centre for a portion they also received of the community part of the Stronger Country Communities. It's fantastic. It really is. And the Acting General Manager yesterday gave us a figure of $5.2 million that we've received over the 5 rounds of Stronger Country Communities. It is staggering the difference that it's made to our Shire community and various groups, sporting and otherwise. It's fantastic. And then the surprise one, councillors, that was a surprise to me as well, let alone anyone else, was the $118,000 for the pedestrian bridges at Lake Centenary. That was sometimes the member for Cootamundra likes to go for a stroll and just to talk out there, and her office arranged me to take her for a stroll and a walk, and she happened to have a $118,000 cheque there for that as well, and I sort of felt terrible that we didn't have rent a crowd there. However, it was a surprise, and that was through the 2022 Places to Swim grants. And again, to our grants officer, the town planner, thank you for your wordsmithing, and thank Council for their advocacy of the project. And that project, of course, you're having local tradesmen and Cleverton Steel heavily involved, so it's terrific. But a warm thanks, of course, is extended to the member for Cootamundra. Thank you. Let's go to Councillor Reinhold.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the Imagine committee meeting last week just to kick off the new year, and we just wanted to say a big thank you to Denise Clements. She's finishing up on the 1st of February, so everyone's quite sad that she's leaving us, but hopefully she'll still be on the scene as an artist. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Reinhold. And look, I know that you and I think Councillor McLaren have shared with myself and others that Miss Clements has done a fine job in that role, and thank you for those kind words. And we also welcome back, of course, the manager who was previously in the role. So thank you very, very much. Any further delegates' reports? If not, I thank you, and I now refer you to page 167, correspondence, 16.1, charity ride, the Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So an item of correspondence for the Bondi to Barossa charity ride for dementia. They'd just like to pass through Temora on the 17th and 18th of March for Council's approval.
Thank you. Before I go to Councillor Oliver, we had some debates in the offices here recently in relation to your notice, councillors, that we've received a rather comprehensive traffic management plan in your business papers, which takes up probably most of it. Of course, there's a school of thought that we should perhaps email it to all councillors for your reference and noting it on the actual report with the recommendation for you to consider. However, we erred on the side of caution to put it in the actual business paper. So, I know it's one of those ones that, you know, the sort of discretion, but I just want to get a feeling if councillors are you happy for it to be included in the business paper? Would you be happy for those sorts of things to be just emailed out? Councillor Irvine?
My personal preference, it's not a common occurrence, so I would prefer to get it in paper copy.
Thank you. So other comments, views? The Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, look, the amount of pages in this, I seem to think it'd be better done if it was, perhaps a smaller report with that, with the majority of it emailed and with reference to say that's on the hub. It's going to save a lot of paper and a lot of time and effort. I think a lot of cost. I would have thought, in particular.
Thank you, and I know. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. And I know that yes, for something like this, that's probably appropriate. But then, if there's something, again like a DA that has multiple pages, then maybe that, that's a different matter. But thank you, Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I'm happy to get something like that in email form. It's on the hub. We do get huge business papers sometimes that go over 500 pages. I'm happy to have a smaller business paper with those attachments emailed.
Thank you. And having said that, back to Councillor Irvine's point, because I must admit I do like a hard, that hard copy to scribble on, etc. if required. However, if a councillor wanted a hard copy of a particular cumbersome document, then we just ask the office to do so. Thank you. Councillor Oliver, you've been patient. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I too wouldn't mind getting this type of thing as an email, neither. I just think, for such a simple event, for such a huge amount of red tape to go through, it just seems a little bit over the top to me. But anyway, I'll approve the. I'd move a motion to approve the request. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you. So Councillor Oliver is moving the recommendation that Council approve the request. Is there a seconder of the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair? Thank you. Moved, seconded. Discussion. The Deputy Mayor.
Well, just getting back, like in this case, there's a lot of stuff in here, this report, that is not relevant to Temora Shire. I think that's the part that needs to be put on the hub. If it's relevant to Temora Shire, fair enough. But there's a lot of this is not. So I just don't see any point having it as part of the paperwork.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Further discussion on the motion, Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I agree with the item being put on the hub, but I think when the cover page goes to council, I'd still like to see a comment by the works manager or something saying that he doesn't see any problem with this application or does see a problem, so that at least we know that whether to go and have a look at it or not.
Yeah. Thanks very much. I'm just going to deal with the motion, and then I think that the acting general manager and directors and managers have heard the feeling of council, which is what I'm reading is there's obviously a lot of discretion, but on particularly a situation like this when the bulk of it has really nothing to do with us, the advice of our engineering team and others are crucial, and the relevant information there, and as long as it's councillors have access to it electronically, and if they require a hard copy, then they can certainly reach out, as long as it's in the official copy of the minutes, of course. So I'm going to put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. So we go way over to nothing of an urgent late nature, Madam Acting General Manager.
That's correspondence. So we've still got 2 items of correspondence.
Where?
The business today.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Okay, so yes, so we're dealing with that as correspondence, yes. So page 266, 16.2, business with notice, and I want to thank councillors Judd and Councillor Irvine. This is, we're starting off with getting into the habit of this business with notice, and I know it's not easy, but thank you for taking the time to do that. So we're dealing with 16.2, Business with Notice, New South Wales Planning Portal and Local Government New South Wales. The Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Judd has put a item of business with notice through, so I'll just go through those. So the first one's in relation to issues with the New South Wales Planning Portal and how that's impacting building and development applications in the Shire. So I've obtained responses from the Director of Environmental Services and the Town Planner. They're up on the screen if you would like to follow along. So their response, as you can see there, is that we agree that the planning portal is not user-friendly. It's taking away customer contact that occurred under the previous system when forms had to be lodged in person at the counter. It makes lodging applications inefficient at times, such as the wrong type of application being selected, incorrect or missing information. Council officers are then requiring applicants to amend or withdraw and resubmit their application at times. Council officers have seen some developments commencing without consent, which may be related to applicants avoiding using the planning portal. The solution that council officers see is that the New South Wales Planning Portal must become more user-friendly, avoiding applicants needing to re-enter the same information multiple times, which is time-consuming, providing more information to applicants to help them complete forms correctly, and more insistence on pre-lodgement contact and meetings with council officers so that applicants are better prepared to submit their applications. Councillor Judd also submitted a second item of business with notice in relation to the effectiveness of LG New South Wales as a law.
Sorry, Madam Acting General Manager, can we just deal with the first one? So, Councillor Judd, in relation to that response, and I thank the Acting General Manager and the Director and Town Planner for providing that response. Councillor Judd, in terms of, actually, I think that they're all reasonable points, and wondering whether you're wishing to propose that we make appropriate representations to advocate for that, or what you're thinking. Thanks, Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to probably ask the Director whether it's something that you'd like to see this council take up to try and improve the situation or not.
Thank you. The Director.
We wouldn't be Robinson Crusoe, Mr Mayor. There's plenty of councils bigger and uglier than us that have already been banging their heads against a brick wall with the Department of Planning. I guess it wouldn't hurt, but yeah, seriously, our approval times would have to have doubled because of the problems that were raised in the response.
Thank you, Councillor Judd. Yeah. Thank you, Director. No, I just want to make sure it was brought to councillors' attention about problems we are having. You know, we are getting some feedback from some of our local residents with the time taken, and I think it's a shame when we did have a record once of being the fastest council in New South Wales putting DAs through in about 4 days. So it's a shame that's gone, but yeah, I think it was brought up at conference, and you know, I know Government of New South Wales taking it up, but yeah, it takes a long time to convince the bureaucrats.
Councillor Judd, well, whether you're thinking that you'd like this council to make representation to our state member, Riverina JO, country mayors, what are you thinking?
So you suggested, Mr Mayor, I'll go along that. I'll recommend that we, this council, make representation to our state member and to go to the state government, appropriate, and also to our joint organisation and local government of New South Wales.
And country mayors, yeah. Thank you very much, Councillor Judd, and outlining the concerns that we have with the process. Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Good, thank you. Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Irvine.
This is a question to the Director of Environmental Services. Is there any privacy or legal impediment to council offering support to members of the public to guide them through the use and online lodgement with the portal.
Thank you. The Director.
We proudly have been very proactive in that space. We actually have a public kiosk in my office where Sally Hurst, the technical assistant, sits down with the potential applicants and guides them through it, helps them do it, and that happens quite regularly.
Thank you. Councillor Irvine.
Well, in light of that response, which sounds very proactive, and with a view that the state government may not take our advice and change this system straight away, I suggest that we embark on a public information campaign to highlight that fact, and that approach should basically bring the whole process back to how it was prior to the implementation of the portal, and speed up all of that and avoid a lot of this the issues that have just been highlighted.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. I've got a motion that's before us that Councillor Judd and Councillor Good have moved, and that is that we make representation to the state member for Cootamundra, the Riverina Joint Organisation, New South Wales Country Mayors, raising our serious concerns with the planning portal, the current planning portal. So, Councillor Judd and Councillor Good, you're happy with that? Yes. Thank you. So I'm going to put that motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare that motion carried. So we're happy. So then let's go to the next business without notice item, the Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just go back up, sorry. So the General Manager, Councillor Judd also requested an item of business with notice in relation to the effectiveness of LG New South Wales as a lobby organisation, and the General Manager has provided a written report under separate cover. I believe that should have been with your business papers.
Thank you. Yep, that every councillor received that. Yep, thank you. It was very, very informative, I think, for all of us from the comments that I've heard from several councillors. So we thank Councillor Judd for raising it, and Councillor, the General Manager, for compiling the document. Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I thank the General Manager for the report. Concern I have is that it goes back probably my involvement in conferences over the last 25 years. That we had up until 2013, we had two associations, Shires Association and Local Government Association, and the argument then was that we needed to combine into one association because for political reasons the government didn't want to be talking to two different organisations, right? And so I wasn't really in favour of that. I thought the old Shires Association was doing a great job, but anyway, majority won and we formed one new association. So it sort of worries me now that now we're going back to having two different voices coming to council, and I commend the work the country mayors are doing, but it worries me that we're paying, a large membership fee to local government in South Wales. We don't seem to be getting much value out of it. It's sort of, I don't know what's happened to them, but it's, it's, that's my main concern. We argued against having a, joint organisation because we didn't want another body in between, and it worries me that, if we get two different voices, I think the government will make use of that. It's the government of the day and the opposition of the day are very keen to talk to all parties at the moment because they're keen to get on side for the election, but what will happen after the election, I'm not sure. And I'm just expressing my concern about we've got to make sure that local government in New South Wales is being used and make full use of it as well. So, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thanks very much, Councillor Judd, and I think it is healthy from time to time to tease these things out because it is a big line item on the budget, LGNSW membership. The country mayors get great value for that for $562.50. But as was reported in the document, 128 councils, so all councils are members, which actually surprised me because obviously those couple that weren't are now on board. I agree, Councillor Judd, that we need to utilise them more, certainly their complementary services more. Remember, they charge a heck of a lot for certain other courses, and it's not inexpensive. However, there is, I think, a tremendous amount of value for many reasons to be involved in our peak body. I'm very proud of the fact that there has been that memorandum of understanding signed between both LGNSW and New South Wales country mayors under our former chairman, the Mayor of Parkes, Councillor Ken Keith, and his team. It really is fantastic that CMA does have carriage of those regional rural issues. However, Councillor Judd, like you and those that served at that time when that decision was taken, this council resolved not to support, and we certainly voted to retain the former Shires Association, that were an outstanding organisation. But again, we're in the minority. But I can see you're suggesting that we've effectively gone back to that. But I do strongly, personally believe that we need to continue our involvement, but take your point that need to identify and continue to make sure we do really get that value for the dollar in terms of the complementary services, which, you know, when you analyse it, there is a fair bit there. So thank you, Councillor Judd. So you're just happy to note that? Yes. Yeah, thank you. And thanks again for putting that in. Councillors, we now proceed, if there's no other comments on those issues, let's go over to page 267, 16.3, further business without notice. The Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So Councillor Irvine has also presented a number of items of business with notice. So I'll run through the responses that I've obtained to those questions. There was a question on the status of the street tree policy information gathering and to provide anticipated processes and timeline for the 23 street tree policy review. So the Engineering Technical Officer has advised that Mark McCrone has commenced the tree audit, and it's expected that this process may be completed around April, pending Mark's availability over this time. Following completion of the audit, the street tree policy will be reviewed and updated.
So you're happy, Councillor Irvine?
Yeah, I just, a lot of these projects were commenced last year, and some of them even earlier than that. The open spaces policy draft was presented to Council in October 2021. So realistically, I just need an update as to where these things are up to, so that we might get a bit of a timeline as to when we may be able to complete some of these tasks.
Well, that's right, Councillor, but I'm also sure you're mindful that it is extremely busy time in Temora Shire Council, with a heck of a lot happening in nearly every portfolio. I'm sure you're very mindful of that. However, it's good to tease some of these things out. The Acting General Manager.
Okay, second item, please provide status of design and costings for the stormwater infrastructure relative to Temora Industrial Subdivision, Highfields Estate, Melaleuca Business Park and other related developments, with respect to agreements such as developer infrastructure, deferred payments policy and additional developer contributions. The Director of Environmental Services has advised that Council is still waiting to receive a final stormwater design from Maker Engineering to integrate with existing development and planned stormwater infrastructure upgrades at Victoria Street. Once this is received, it can be costed. Following cost estimates, Council can formally consider the application from Highfields Estate for assistance with the infrastructure delivery under the Development Infrastructure Deferred Payment Policy as part of Council's overall budget considerations. Highfields Estate and the Melaleuca Business Park Stage 1 are already subject to developer contribution fees under Council Section 712 Contributions Plan, which are payable at the time of issuing a construction certificate. Additional Section 712 contribution fees will be collected at the time of construction of future dwellings and industrial developments in these estates. The next item was to provide an update on the anticipated date for the heavy vehicle alternate route workshop. So council officers have tentatively scheduled a workshop for Friday the 24th of March at 12:30, and a meeting request and an agenda will be sent out in due course. The next item, please provide anticipated approximate dates for Hoskin Street carriageway upgrade, planning, completion and commencement of works. The Engineering Works Manager has advised that indicative dates are in accordance with the report to the November Assets and Operations Committee. A further report will be presented to the February Assets and Ops Committee in relation to items which may require consideration for Council's budget. Item 5, please provide anticipated process and timelines for the planning for Hoskin Street Northern and Southern Streetscape upgrade. The Town Planner has advised that Tonkin has been engaged to prepare construction plans and cost estimates. A site inspection has been arranged for early February, with a project plan to be developed after that. Council officers are expecting to receive a draft engineering design during April or May. Item 6 is a request to provide anticipated date for completion of the Temora flood study. The Town Planner advised that the Temora Floodplain Risk Management Plan had been scheduled for completion in August 23. However, the recent spate of flooding has hampered the resources of Lyle and Associates, so they're now running behind schedule. Item number 7 is a request to provide progress and anticipated date for response from New South Wales Department of Planning relative to report on rezoning prepared as a result of the housing strategy workshop held last year. The Town Planner advised that a preliminary response was received from the Department of Planning in August 22, identifying that additional studies and information is required to support rezonings. These studies may need to be prepared by developers of the land, not council. Council officers will raise the issue of additional studies as part of the South West Slopes Regional Housing Delivery Plan, which will be prepared by consultants appointed by the Department of Regional New South Wales, commencing next month. Council officers were advised of the commencement of this project on Friday the 13th of January. Item number 8 was a request to advise anticipated date of the Department of Planning and Environment will finalise the review of the draft integrated water cycle management strategy. Further, please outline next steps in process and approximate anticipated timeline. The Engineering Assets Manager advised that the final integrated water cycle management plan has been submitted to DPI, but no advice has been received since. The Engineering Asset Manager will follow up when he returns from leave. Request number 9 is to provide anticipated delivery date of report relating to the proposal to establish a Section 711 Developer Contributions Plan or Policy. And the Town Planner has advised that council staff will attend to this in the second half of 2023. Final item was a request to provide an anticipated commencement date and proposed timeline for progressing open spaces strategy as per the presentation received in March 22. So council officers have tentatively scheduled a workshop for Monday the 27th of February at 12:30 with a meeting request and agenda to be sent out in due course.
Thank you very much. Councillor Irvine?
Just to the Acting General Manager, thanks for that information. That's good to see progress on a lot of these things that have already been commenced. There's only one real clash that I can see in those dates was with the design for the upgrades of Hoskin Street Northern and Southern blocks, whether or not that process should be deferred until the final plans are made for the pavement upgrade and also after the HVAR workshop meetings.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. The Acting General Manager.
I'd have to defer to the engineers for that to answer.
Thank you. The Engineering Works Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as we need to present a report to the February Assets and Ops Committee in relation to the project that pertains to the centre carriageway that Transport for New South Wales is involved in, I think it's probably best to consider that at the time of discussing that report based on what we indicate in that report that council may need to contribute to as part of that works.
Thank you, Mr Manager. Thank you, Councillor Irvine, for those questions on notice, and it's or business with notice. So it's a good habit for us to get into, councillors. So thank you, and thank you to the General Manager, directors, and managers for your efforts in taking the time to respond in an appropriate manner. Now let's, councillors, go to page 268, notice of motion, 17.1, in relation to e-scooters. That's assuming Acting General Manager had no further late correspondence.
No, Mr Mayor, no late correspondence.
Thank you. Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This is probably not a problem that's a real problem in Temora Shire at this moment, but when you travel around to other cities and towns, you see it's going to be a growing problem. It was brought up at LGNSW conference and as being a concern for the future, and the need for the state government to legislate to change the policy so that it enables and regulates the use of e-scooters. My main concern is that not just with e-scooters but also with ordinary scooters and gophers, that at the speed they travel, especially on footpaths and across our pedestrian crossings. And I know I've seen a lot of young people with scooters coming up pedestrian crossings that scoot across without looking for traffic very much, and I think it's going to be a real worry about with e-scooters as well. They're becoming very common in other places, and I think they will take off in Temora Shire. And I'd like to be more on the front foot about it and find out off our traffic committee just what they are the present regulations, and do they regulations need updating or changing. And that way I'll move the motion that request that the Temora Shire Council Traffic Committee be asked to investigate and report back on the growing trend of e-scooters, with particular reference to their use on footpaths and pedestrian crossings. And this investigation may also need any need to regulate gophers and standard scooters. So
you're
I'll
moving
move that way.
Thank you, Councillor Judd. Move that way. Is there a seconder? Councillor Irvine, you're seconding the motion. Thank you. Moved, seconded, discussion. Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Currently, e-scooters are illegal to be used in public places in New South Wales. So they aren't allowed to be used on roads, footpaths, pedestrian crossings, only in private places.
Thank you, Councillor Good. I'll now go in discussion on the motion. Councillor Irvine.
Well, just for anyone travelling to Queensland with their e-scooter, they've got rules up there that it's 12k an hour on a footpath, 25k an hour on a public road, and the only place you can ride them is a road that hasn't got a centre line marked on it. So any of your side streets and suburb streets you can, but any main road that's got a centre line marked on it, you can't ride your e-scooter on that. And further, they've rolled out some really serious fines for anyone not wearing a helmet. I think it's $143, right up to using a mobile phone whilst riding your e-scooter, which comes in at a whopping $1,078. So anyone who goes up to Queensland for the holidays with their e-scooter, be careful.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. That is very informative, and it's good to see the Queenslanders a bit tougher in some areas. We'll go to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I also think this may be a little bit premature. As I said, it was raised at the annual conference, and hopefully there'll be a report come back through that. So I would have thought it would be best, to wait until something, on a state level comes back, rather than Temora staff doing their own thing here. Probably taking up a lot of time and probably something that's information we're going to find out in the near future anyway. So I just don't see it's necessary at the moment. I mean, yes, certainly there's people getting around a lot of gophers these days, and some of them are not particularly well driven. But I think that's comes back to more of a educational thing or something, somehow to get through the people that. But I think this is mainly, my understanding, this is mainly, looking at e-scooters, and as I said, Councillor Good said they're illegal anyway in public places. So I just find this. Yeah, I think this is making work for our council, for our staff, that's probably not necessary at this stage.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. So are you thinking, instead of just perhaps waiting for LGNSW to write to us, whether as an alternate that we actually write to them expressing obviously an interest, we want to be on the front foot, what are you, what's the position and where are you up to in terms of your research, or is that the sort of thing or not? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I guess that could be a way to look at it, to find out what work has already been done or being done at the moment to in that space, I suppose. Yeah.
And flag that the genuine interest.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. The Engineering Works Manager.
Thanks, through you, Mr Mayor. Just in regards to what Councillor Sinclair was raising there, without wasting too much time, as indicated, we could just contact or reach out to Transport for New South Wales in state to see if there's any plans in that space with e-scooters and how they plan on addressing foreseeable issues, because their resources are quite heavy compared to councils. And then if there's relevant information that comes back, that could be presented to council, but that's just a suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Manager. I suppose where Councillor Judd may be coming from is that with the Traffic Committee, it's all encompassing of Transport for New South Wales, Police, State MP, Rep, Councillor, Engineers, RSO, etc. But Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There is a trial going on currently at Lake Macquarie, conducted by Transport for New South Wales with e-scooters.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Good. Councillor Judd.
I support the manager's suggestion really that we make inquiry of Transport New South Wales and report back, and if something comes out of that, well, then we may take it to the Traffic Committee. But so I'm happy to do that.
So thank you. So Councillor Judd and Councillor Evan, you're happy to withdraw the original motion. Thank you. And the new motion, Councillor Judd, is that
that council inquire of Department of New South or Transport New South Wales about what their plans are to with e-scooters and police advice.
And also what regulating gophers and scooters. Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Irvine, are you happy with that as a seconder? Thank you. Moved and seconded as the new motion. Have we captured that? So the mover, you're happy with what's on the screen? I'll just get this right. Well, yeah, but just Transport for New South Wales about plans, any plans with. About any plans with e-scooters. Gophers and scooters, was that right, Councillor Judd? Yeah. So, sorry, were you happy with what's there, or would you like to add the Gophers and Scooters.
I'm pretty good gophers as well.
Yeah, I think very relevant. Mobility scooter, yes, thank you. Yeah, that's important. Mobility scooters, not just the pedal ones that we go to work on. So Councillor Irvine, you're happy with that? Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much, Councillor Judd, for that. Councillors, let's go over the page to 270, 17.2, a further notice of motion, Caravan Park Committee of Management. Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, just in support of this notice of motion.
So would you like to move the notice of motion?
I'll move the notice of motion as it
Thank you.
exists.
The notice of motion, councillors, that council establish a committee of management to oversee operations at January Road Caravan Park consisting of interested councillors, council officers and casual park managers, cleaners, to progress a plan of improvements and to identify further opportunities. So you're moving that way?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion, please? Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Judd has seconded the motion. Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, in the conversations for the Caravan Park Leasing Committee, the proposed lessee for this site came up with some really good suggestions that would have been very helpful for council and would have offset a lot of the costs. It would be unfortunate to miss these opportunities, especially considering the restrictions on council's budget and the we've got a couple of areas where we are making a loss, and one of the suggestions put forward by the previous person we were speaking to would have almost brought this caravan park to a cost equality, or almost a cost a profit, and it was a simple suggestion, and I think there's more suggestions of that nature to be made. Unfortunately, the business next door may be a suitable partner, however the business is currently on the market, and when a buyer comes forward is anyone's guess. So in the meantime we either do nothing or we can progress some of these good suggestions that were put forward in these previous discussions and move the park forward. Any investment that council makes in this space will be there'll be an opportunity to recoup that if the parks were leased further down the track. So, and there's developments occurring in caravan parks all the time, and there has been very little work done in this space or that particular caravan park for a number of years. So it would be a great opportunity for council to work with the current caretakers and to enact some of these good suggestions that were discovered during the previous process, and to maybe enhance the visitor experience, improve the bottom line, and just improve the outcomes for council itself and for the ratepayers.
Thank you very much, Councillor Irvine. I go to Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I've often thought that a master plan of the caravan parks would be a good thing to do, to scope out a shovel-ready plan of how we'd like to see it developed. It's a very visible entrance point to our town, and I think there's great potential to make it really more user-friendly and more of an attractive place. I know it's very heavily used at times. I see it quite full, but I reckon there is definitely some potential for enhancing the value of that asset for council in an income terms and a leasing terms. And I think if we have a plan done, we'll be ready for any grand opportunities that might be out there to enhance Crown land or public ownership of caravan parks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McLaren. Just on that point, Councillor McLaren, in relation to the master plan, which, you know, you could argue has a lot of merit, is it your view that we need to have a committee of management for that to happen?
I think
Councillor
there's a lot of people with great ideas, and if this is the committee structure that invites passionate people about this asset to contribute their ideas, I think that's all for the better.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Yeah, I suppose my fear, Councillor McLaren and Councillor Irvine and Councillor Judd, is if we have a committee of management for this, then we have other assets as well. Do we have a committee of management for the Temora Recreation Centre, you know, and other assets as well that we hold? I'm just, you know, personally, I'm just trying to create some more discussion. I'm not seeing any red flashes other than from 3 that are on. Yeah, so that was just my concern. Councillor McLaren.
It may not be a long-lived committee of management. It may
Like a sunset.
it may be a sunset committee that has a 5-year lifespan and brings together and brings it up to speed to something that we want to see an end product of, and then it can evolve. It may cease, but I think we need to have that communication body to. Yeah, it could be a workshop. But I just think there's so much potential, and I think there's lots of creative ideas that we could make it a really attractive asset, far more than it is now. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. Go to Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, just to expand on that, it doesn't have to meet monthly, of course, it could meet twice a year. And it doesn't have to be terribly onerous. The main point is that even the process of attempting to lease this site uncovered an idea from the prospective lessee that would return this park to profit almost immediately. So that was just an indication to me that there are some wins to be had here. There were some comments made to me by visitors to the park over the very wet period that perhaps some concrete slabs would be good, and you do see that in a lot of caravan parks where they've got a concrete slab where you put your van. There's a lot of simple things that can be done here to enhance the experience, and anything that council does in this space will be recouped, either with council being the manager or if council does obtain a lessee down the track. So I just think it's and just to speak on that other matter, the cinema, for example, has got a committee of management. So there are plenty of examples of that type of facility having a committee to oversee its progress.
Thanks, Councillor Irvine. I go to the Director of Environmental Services. Your initial views or thoughts that you'd like to share with Council?
I love meetings, Mr Mayor. They're fantastic. But I think, you know, we could do this fairly simply. You know, it was my intention to put up into this year's budget estimates for solar panels on that facility. So that's something we could address pretty quickly. It just depends on whether council would support the capital outlay. But, yeah, I think there would be value in a workshop to get some ideas that could be investigated and costed and put back to council estimates for further consideration. That's how I'd like to handle it.
So thank you, Mr. Director. And that is opposed to a committee of management that actually councillors and senior staff workshop, you know, an appropriate master plan, for want of a better term.
That would be my preference.
Thank you. I think that would be a lot simpler, just from my perspective, but again, that's a matter for council. Councillor Irvine?
The only comment I'll make on that is that opportunity has existed for as long as council have managed the caravan parks, and that particular park's run at a loss forever. And it was the involvement of an outside party with fresh eyes that were able to identify that immediately, which was just so obvious when you thought about it. And I think at the very least, if council does go down the path of a workshop, I think it'd be very important to include the people who are doing the caretaking at the moment. And I don't know, even advertise it to anyone in the public who might want to attend that workshop and assist, because I think it was obviously the fresh eyes that made the difference at that
Yeah, Councillor Irvine, so are you and Councillor Judd, are you still, after what you've heard so far, do you still wish to have the motion that has been given notice in relation to the Committee of Management? Do you still wish that to stand?
I certainly do. I think that's the best way to go forward. If not, then a workshop.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Judd? Councillor Judd?
I second the motion to get it discussed.
Yes, yeah.
But I'm really in favour of a workshop or a sunset committee. Like, I don't, might not be an ongoing management committee, but at least we need to look at it, and I'll support whatever, like, to achieve that.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yeah, I think perhaps is to start off a workshop and then see how that evolves, and if it's, at the end of that, it's, you know, you can see there's a worthwhile setting up a committee of some sort, then we'll go from there, but perhaps start with the workshop and then, yeah, see how what evolves from that.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. So, Councillor Irvine, I'm going to put this motion to the vote.
Well, can I change the motion to read that we hold a workshop to discuss potential improvements at Journey Road Caravan Park, but with the addition that we include the current caretakers in that workshop, and we advertise it for inclusion of anybody else in the community who may be interested.
So you're changing that motion to reflect what you've just articulated. Councillor Judd, you happy to continue seconding that? Thank you. Discussion on this motion after the other notice of motion has been withdrawn. Councillor McLaren.
Just to comment on the passion of Temora community residents for caravanning, and the more you go around the country and stop at caravan parks, the lots of little ideas that you pick up and things you like about each one, and people who are passionate about it can bring that to enhance our shire. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Further discussion on the motion? The Director of Environmental Services.
Yeah, I'd just like to put on record that the current temporary arrangement that we've got with the two families that are looking after the caravan park is working really well. We've got some really conscientious employees that are doing a good job, zero complaints, high quality of service, so it's actually working out pretty good at the moment as it is.
Thanks, Mr Director, and that's important to hear that, so thank you very, very much. Well, councillors, if there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion before you, which has been moved by Councillor Irvine and Councillor Judd, that Council hold a workshop to discuss potential improvements to the Journey Road Caravan Park and include current caretakers, and the workshop to include current caretakers, and advertise the workshop to the wider Shire community. So mover and second are happy. If you are, then I shall put hang on.
And it gets you can advertise
Yep.
this workshop as open to the community.
And advertise this workshop as open to the community.
Okay, we happy? Okay, let's put it to the vote. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very, very much. Councillors, no further business with notices of motion. We proceed to business without notice, which of course is deemed of an urgent nature, which the Acting General Manager has drummed it into my head again, which I appreciate because we need to all learn. And of course, the adopted meeting code, the business to be considered, ruled by the Mayor to be of great urgency on the grounds that it requires a decision by the Council before the next scheduled ordinary meeting of Council. Thank you. So is there any urgent business without notice? Thank you. Councillor Judd, you're looking... Councillor Judd.
I'd like to report on that Erie Park District. We've had 2 vicious storms in 48 hours this week, and their staff have done a good job of coming out there to repair the damage. There's been hundreds and hundreds of trees have been damaged.
So there's urgent action required out of that because we have to remove trees and check council property, etc. So that is urgent, of course. Councillor Judd.
Yes, and I must also, in the past, council has debated whether we needed to have a member of staff situated at Erie Park. At present, we have our workmen out there. I think it's important, and especially in storms and floods and that we have someone situated there. And our man this week has been invaluable in working with council's management when this storms and emergencies have been on. And just I commend Erie Park man and I commend the staff for all the work they've done.
Thank you.
It's been really to have 2 cyclonic events within 48 hours is unheard of. We've had similar ones in the past, but not 2 within such a shorter time. So
exactly, and thank you, Councillor Judd, and also you're formally asking for the necessary emergency works to be carried out.
Yes, and thanks for giving to our staff for what they've done. So,
excellent. Thank you, Councillor Judd, and councillors. I rang Councillor Judd as soon as we heard the storms, as perhaps some of you did as well, and Councillor Judd was assessing the scene with his team out there, and thank God nobody was hurt, but some of your beautiful trees, it was remarkable to see them completely uprooted. Anyway, thank you very much, Councillor Judd. If there's no further urgent business without notice, I would now ask for a motion to receive the councillors' information paper, please. Councillor Good, Councillor McLaren moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Councillors, I was going to defer to the Director of the Director of Environmental Services to please update Council in relation to the regulatory control report on page 279. I know many of us as councillors have obviously had discussions with the family that was attacked by a dog. It's sort of lots of residents have been getting naturally concerned, and I just wondered if the Director of Environmental Services could perhaps articulate where we're at in that space, please. Thank you, the Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. There was actually 2 dog attacks on that day. There was another one up in Vesper Street, which resulted in some injuries to a visitor to town. Our ranger was driving past and attended to that one. Those 2 dogs were actually destroyed that afternoon via the vet. The other attack, there was quite a serious one with a victim taken to Wagga Hospital for surgery. That dog hasn't been put down. However, the owners have been issued with a fine for not keeping their dog under effective control. And also the dog will be declared dangerous. That process has commenced. They have their 7 days finishes today for them to make representations. And that we haven't received any representations, and I understand that they are prepared to go to the lengths that they need to meet the requirements of the Dangerous Dog Declaration, which are quite significant and quite expensive if the dog happens to get out again. So that's where we're at. Our ranger's been keeping in contact with all parties, and he updates me regularly.
Thank you, Mr Director, and I do thank the Ranger and yourself for taking such a tremendous interest and proactive stance in relation to this issue, and it's important for us to be aware of perhaps whether the Director might like to educate councillors what a declared dangerous dog and its impacts, what it actually means, please.
There's a list of requirements under the Act, Companion Animals Act. Fines increase significantly. That's the biggest impact. So if any of the anything, if the dog gets out, the fines are sort of 6 or 7 times the original sort of dog not under effective control fine. You know, it has to be muzzled when it's out. It has to have an enclosure that's absolutely dog proof. I believe the dog has to be desexed, although that is the case. Yes, so the dog has to be desexed. So those requirements have all been spelled out in the letter of notice that we've sent out to the owner, and they had 7 days to object to that. They haven't objected, so that will be issued tomorrow and become an order.
No, thanks, Mr. Director, very much. Any other items, councillors, out of the information paper? Councillor Irvine.
Just a question in relation to that declaration of a dangerous dog. Is there a time limit on that, or is it life?
Thank you. The Director.
Life unless revoked by council for some reason. I have heard of it being revoked in the past, but that was, they had to provide exceptional circumstances, but it wouldn't happen very often, so it is for life. And transferred to other ownerships or transferred to other LGAs, it goes with it.
Thank you. There's nothing further in the information paper. Councillor Irvine.
This question to the Director of Environmental Services, again on another matter. Just looking at the Town Hall Theatre operating statement.
What page, please?
On page 292.
Thank you.
We've got what appears to be a steep increase in costs, and almost identical income, which then results in a less than sort of satisfactory bottom line. Is there some mitigating factor here, or are we looking at these types of losses going forward? And I suppose this form of entertainment, I noticed there was one of Australia's last video hire shops shut just the other day, and a lot of this content is now arriving in people's homes via streaming. I just noticed the other day they were advertising that Top Gun Maverick available from streaming. It was only in cinemas, 2 months ago, if that. So this stuff's virtually in people's lounge rooms, and I don't know whether this model can ever deliver a profit, and just how deep the losses will go before council can start to make some changes to the operating or find other income streams, or try and identify some way to stem the bleeding.
Thank you. The Director.
Yeah, it's a topic that's always on the agenda. The committee's very mindful of escalating costs. We need to have good school holidays, and this has been a good school holiday, so I expect to see that deficit in the next report improve. But yeah, look, we are very mindful of the costs. It's a worry, and for the reasons you exposed, I think we can't do much more over there. We provide a top service, and it's a high quality facility, but we've just got to try and find a way to cut the costs wherever we can. So, and we look at that regularly. So it is something that we're working on.
Thank you, Mr. Director. The Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just add a comment on a couple of those costs that have jumped up. So items like your candy bar, that could be to do with the timing of purchases. We might have just purchased a whole lot of stock and not sold it yet. So there can be a couple of timing factors in there. So that can be part of the explanation, but totally agree with what the Director's also said.
Thank you. Go to Councillor Reinhold.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. And pre-COVID, we were travelling along really well. We're just still trying to get over the effects of COVID.
Thank you. Councillor Irvine.
If I might add some further comment, it appears COVID seems to have changed people's habits in many areas. speaking to local businesses, there's been a change in habits of visitations to the main street and what sort of time of day they go. And I was talking to Sue Tier, and she basically said since COVID began and the impact since that all of her business appears to be before or up till lunchtime, and then the afternoons are virtually non-existent. And there's also been comment made by some of the sporting organisations, and there's been a major shift in people's habits, and it'll be interesting just to see the impacts long term and the outcomes, because there really has been some major upheavals and some real habit changes, and I don't know whether some things will recover.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Nothing further information paper. If not, thank you. Motion to proceed into closed session in accordance with section 10A of the Local Government Act advise that there are several matters that are deemed confidential, and accordingly I require a motion to have those matters considered. Thank you very, very much. Motion to proceed into close. Thanks, Mr Cunningham. The Deputy Mayor has moved that way. Seconded. Councillor Oliver moved. Seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Proceed into closed session. Thank you. Welcome back, councillors, members of senior staff, into open council for Temora Shire. The confidential business considered that has been brought from closed session into open council are the following. The motion of Councillor Irvine and Councillor Good. Council resolved to move into confidential business at 4:10 p.m. Motion was carried. On the motion of Councillor Irvine and Councillor McLaren, the additional information be included in the November 2022 confidential minutes as provided. The motion was lost. Moved Councillor McLaren and Councillor Oliver that council moves out of closed council into open council at 4:22 p.m. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Oliver moved that we proceed into confidential at 6:27 p.m. The motion was carried. The General Manager's Performance Review Panel, the Information Review Report of December 2022, and the motion of Councillor Oliver and Councillor Good. It was resolved that the General Manager's Performance Review Panel report be noted, and the motion was carried. Unauthorised use of buildings. On the motion of Councillor Good and Councillor Reinhold, it was resolved that Council note the report, and the motion was carried. Regional Drought Resilience Planning Program. On the motion of Councillor Good and the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, it was resolved that Council endorse the forming of a consortium with Blandshire to apply for funding under the Regional Drought Resilience Planning Program, and the motion was carried. Outstanding signage projects. Councillor Irvine vacated the chamber in declaring an interest on the matter. Thank you. On the motion of the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Oliver, it was resolved that Council write to the contractor requesting an update within 2 weeks from the date of the letter on the outstanding signage projects, and further request a completion date for each project, and the motion was carried. Notice of rescission, sale of land, Apollo Place. The motion of Councillor Irvine and Councillor Judd. It was resolved that the resolution 205-2022 titled Apollo Place Development that was passed the 15th of December 2022 meeting be rescinded, and that motion was carried. Notice of motion, Dr Parry Memorial Homes, Apollo Place. The motion of Councillor Irvine and Councillor Reinhold. Council accept the offer received from Dr Parry Memorial Homes as presented in the confidential council meeting of the 15th of December 2022. The offer is payment of the offered price over a 5-year term interest-free loan. The road, curb and guttering to be paid by Dr Parry Memorial Homes at a future date once design and costings are known. Dr Parry Memorial Homes will be responsible for the removal of the 2 homes fronting Trungley Road, and finally soil test is received to the satisfaction of the Dr Parry Memorial Homes Committee. and that motion was carried with Councillor Oliver voting against. On the motion of Councillor Good and Councillor Reinhold, it was resolved that Council moves motions from closed business into open council. The motion was carried. The motion of Councillor Good and Councillor McLaren, it was resolved that Council moves out of closed council into open council at 7:32 p.m. May I please have a motion to formally adopt those resolutions? Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Councillor Oliver, thank you. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Well, councillors, thank you very, very much for your Councillor McLaren.
Just to say, I'd like to apply for leave for the February Committee Day and Council Day meeting. I shall be away. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Leave is granted, and enjoy your trip. And make sure you go to the Cadbury's Chocolate Factory. Councillors, there being no other business, I thank you very, very much for your attendance, your contributions, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.